Hi, everyone. It's Henry DeVries for Agency Rainmaker TV. And here is when we talk about how do we make it rain for advertising agencies, digital marketing agencies, PR agencies, and the like. And special guest today, my good buddy and co-author, Craig Lowder. And we're here to talk about how to convert more leads. Craig, welcome. What are you going to tell us today?
There is a system to significantly improve your lead conversion rate, which we'll probably talk about, contains 6 stars to follow.
I want to hear about this. So I'm kind of faking that. I helped write it. So looking forward to hear you articulating it. Well, first, let's start with who you are, Craig, and also who do you serve?
Very good, Henry. So my name, as Henry said, is Craig Lowder, and for decades, I've been in B2B environments, and I serve both small and mid-sized business owners, with my focus now being on trusted advisors, in particular agencies.
So trusted advisors are those people who sell their expertise, their brain power, and it's a little different challenge for them than, say, that B2B technology company or the B2B wholesaler. So what are some of the differences when we're talking about trusted advisors like agencies?
They really need to be able to sell the intangible. They need to be very much focused on a target audience and stick to it. And they need to have a message to begin with that resonates with that target audience, so that they're distinguished between the other 4 purchase or other 3 purchase options that a prospective client has. Do nothing, spend the money on something else, buy from somebody else, or buy from you.
So there are always other choices, including status quo, do nothing.
Status quo, that's the biggest competitor out there. Where we're at today is horrible, but at least I know it's horrible and how to deal with it.
What was that? I'd rather have the devil I know than the devil I don't. Okay.
Exactly.
So you hit on something very important. You've preached this for your career, that we have to have a target. We have to have a niche play, if you will, or even go super tight with our niche. Could you talk about where targeting fits in with your system?
If I'm working with an agency, I'm collaborating with them on the targeting and the messaging. But that's really the starting point. Of the 6 stars, you can't start to do anything unless you have a clear picture of who you're seeking to talk to, because we're looking for those clients that have the willingness and the ability to pay us money. And that needs to be defined, and your agency friends will definitely know this in terms of demographics, geographics, and in particular psychographics. Why? How do they buy?
Yeah. And what is their biggest pain? I know for agency owners, and I help them, I know their biggest pain is about their sales pipeline. You might say their sales funnel, that they don't have enough right fit prospects. I know 2 out of 3 say it's the biggest pain at their agency, and half of them say finding time to work on it is the biggest pain they have at the agency. So tell us more about these stars in your system that guide us. So we're guided by the target. What are the other stars?
So number 1 is targeting the right fit clients. Number 2 is delivering a message that resonates with your target audience. And it typically contains 3 components. It must be something you as an agency do extremely well, something that your target audience highly values, and then that's only 2 parts of the Venn diagram. The third part is your competition can't do it, or if they claim to do it, you have proof points where they don't. And that allows us to develop a message and to deliver a message that's highly distinguishing versus differentiating.
I always think this is where you have to be a Sherlock Holmes detective character, because you really have to look for the clues. maybe another analogy is just someone who's a good listener who monopolizes the listening, because you need to hear their language. Had a great suggestion, Craig, one of our authors who's a presentation expert. He records all his initial conversations with prospects on Zoom. He gets permission and then transcribes them, takes all the transcripts and looks for common language that they're using to help him refine his messaging. So tighter messaging. What's the next star that should guide us?
Well, we're talking about now we're generating some leads. The question is, how do we improve our lead conversion rate? And that involves several stars. Number one, having your sales process mapped, interaction by interaction, and ensuring when you develop that sales process, you start with your right fit clients, target audience, and their buying process, so that your selling process is congruent with how your clients buy.
I know in my world, we have 3 conversations. The first is an attraction phase conversation. And I say at the end, if they would like a meaningful conversation, they can, but I should correct that. I don't invite everyone to have that meaningful conversation. So you're in charge of that process. Then a meaningful conversation is where let's get real, or let's not play. Let's really get down to numbers and talking, what they're committing to, willing to commit to, what you're willing to commit to. And then are you willing to put that on paper? And then an agreement phase conversation. So we're working out terms. Does this make sense? Is this what you wanted to hear? So that's pretty simplified. Now, you've been an expert at this for decades. What nuances do you add to a system like that?
Again, I think it's really by filtering and vetting hard on the front end. And as you said, Henry, it's about asking the right questions, listening intently, and knowing there's probably some questions beyond the questions that need to be asked so that you can get a deeper understanding. And there are certainly some patterns that pop out, even though they may not be apparent based upon the responses to the questions, because there are some interconnections, and the ability to make those connections are extremely important. When it comes to the lead conversion specifically, it's really about developing in a process in a way that you know who is talking to who at your prospect client. You know who from your organization is talking to who, the buying personas at your target organization. But in every interaction that you have with these folks, you need to be able to have an outcome objective for each interaction and get their concurrence that they're going to move forward to the next step. Because out of every interaction, you want to move forward closer to a sale. So you have to choreograph like a dance. And this also gets into the deliverables provided in a particular interaction. Many folks, unfortunately, have this quiver full of arrows, and they're not quite sure when to pull them out, what's appropriate and what's not. So again, like a dance, the deliverables need to be choreographed along with the time frame between each of the interactions. Yeah. And based on that, you will certainly improve. If it's a system followed by everyone, your conversion rate will grow exponentially.
And then those are the metrics to track. Now, Craig and I are big sports fans. When we're together, we're using, is it a baseball analogy of moving people around the bases to score? Or is it a football analogy, moving it down the field? If it's basketball, what's your back and forth transition game? So those are all the sports analogies, but there is a word, it's a playbook. What you're really talking about is a written playbook, an instruction manual. So you know exactly where you are in this process and what is that offer of a next step, or if you sense it's not a right fit, how do you gently end this and not create an enemy in the process? Because, as they say, Craig's up in Milwaukee now, but when he was in Chicago, there's a saying that, hey, I got a guy. So you want to be on that short list of people who get recommended and referred. Everybody in the agency world knows the importance of referrals. So we want a good reputation out there. Take us through more steps of the process, Craig.
So you just alluded to it, Henry. The next step are what I refer to as the sales success standards, or the lead conversion standards, which many of us call KPI. But there's two parts to those KPIs. Unfortunately, the tendency of many agencies, many trusted advisors, is on the results. But results are lagging indicators of success. We really need to focus on the activities or the leading indicators of success that lead up to a successful lead conversion.
Yeah.
And typically, there's somewhere between 5 and 8 measurements between activities and results that you want to measure. If there's not too many, then it's not granular enough. If you have too many, then diligent people always feel disappointed because they don't hit them all. And we all want to hit all of our marks.
Right. So again, with the baseball analogy, conversations with a prospect in the pipeline, or call it the funnel, those are like at bats in baseball. And then you either get hit or you get out. So you can have a batting average. So let's talk about some of these. I'll tell you ours, because I want to focus on what I control. I can control how many Q&As, webinars, small scale seminars I hold a month. Now, I do many things that attracts attendees. I do track signups for it, but I know that's something I don't really control, I influence. But I do know, I do control how many newsletters I do a month, and I know how many people subscribe to the newsletter. So see, there's always this thing you control, and then this, what did you call it, a lagging indicator of these success
So
measures.
results, lagging indicators.
KPIs. I love it when you talk MBA to me, Craig. So yeah, later we'll talk about EBITDA, folks, and cost elasticity curves. So yeah, guilty as charged. We're both MBAs. Okay, so any other measures that we might suggest or be food for thought for people?
Well, it's the overall health of your sales pipeline. If you want a lot of good stuff to come out the other end, you've got to put a lot of good stuff in the pipeline to begin with. So, the whole process and metrics, it gets down to how many qualified leads are being generated. How many outreach calls are we making? How many legitimate sales conversations are we really having? How many opportunities are we identifying and pre-qualifying? How many are we fully qualifying through discovery? How many proposals go out the door? And what's our conversion rate from one step to the next on down? And where we find there's a big fall off between one measure to the next, that's an opportunity to improve.
There you go. And being on a podcast or a YouTube TV show, you do control that. You don't control how many people are going to listen to this. So you can't be worried about that. But if you do enough of these, you're going to have prospects enter the funnel or enter the pipeline. I also call it the staircase sometimes. I like aspirational imagery where they're climbing the staircase. So with all this, I want to talk about you and your rainmaking. What do you do to make it rain for your business?
Well, thank you for asking, Henry. And I don't believe I'm much different than other members or other folks that are watching this show. Number one is referrals. Get qualified referrals from other trusted advisors. Your conversion rate, the length of your sales cycle, both dramatically improve, as well as the price you can charge, the value that you can create. That being said, referrals is my number one source. I would say that close to 80% of my new clients come from referrals, but the others come from small scale seminars, speaking. It's an opportunity to leverage your time, create interaction, create a discussion to help show that you do have the experience and you are a thought leader as a facilitator. And then last but not least, well, there's actually two. Podcasts are really growing. They're opening the doors to people that I don't know. And most importantly, and Henry, you know this, I think I'm one of the few people that went in with the idea, I'm not going to make a bucket load through money by selling my book. That is an incredible credibility builder. I can't tell you how many clients or prospects are like, you really wrote a book? They really view you as a thought leader. And I know that I've arrived when I see an agency owner, a business owner, walking around with my book in their arm, and they got little yellow Post-it notes throughout, and they say, you know, you said on page 37 this, can you explain that a little deeper for me? So the book is a big differentiator, distinguisher, and really positions you as a thought leader. And Henry, as you know, I can attribute directly to the book over $800,000 in personal income over the last 5 years and 21 new clients.
Thank you. And let me give a little insight to the viewers about that, because Craig is the poster child for my advice that you have to be generous and give away 240 copies a year of your book. I mean, just give it away. And, I know Stephen Westner at Predictive ROI, Drew McClellan at Agency Management Institute, they're on the same wavelength as this, that it's getting the book in people's hands. And Craig did that, and he didn't sell a ton of books, but he formed many, many relationships. You sending a book out to someone who could book you on a podcast, who could write about you, who could have a conversation about a client, is a metric you control. The book's your cornerstone content, and thanks so much for how that opened doors for you. I really appreciate that story. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Craig, I hope to have you back on the show. I know there's more we can plumb from this. You give good podcasts there, Craig. Thank you so much.
You facilitate good podcast, Henry.
Thank you. We are educated. Okay, so that's this episode of Agency Rainmaker TV. Please join us again for another episode. And until then, make it rain.